There are moments in life when you feel like you're drowning, slowly, invisibly, and no one sees the water rising. For me, it started with a manager who thought he was a hero while he systematically broke down everyone around him. And the crushing weight of that situation? It almost cost me everything. I grew up in a really good family, loving parents, and an uncle I always looked up to. He's a lawyer, always traveling the world, doing big things. I'm not going to pretend I have the brains to follow in his footsteps, but whenever he visited, it was pure joy. My sister and I loved hearing his stories about the fascinating people he met, the incredible places he'd been, all the little details that made his adventures come alive. For a while, he actually settled down and spent more time with us. That's when he'd tell these two stories that just stuck with me, without him even trying to make a big deal out of them. One was about a guy with sharp eyes, always wearing a hoodie, who just quietly helped people. Didn't wait for thanks, didn't look for attention. Just did what was needed and disappeared. The other was about someone who stopped a killer from hurting others. That one felt heavier, more profound, in the way he talked about it. To be clear, these were two separate stories about two different people, and he never mixed them up. Neither do I. Fast forward to my mid-20s. I'll admit, I've struggled to find my path, to really focus on my studies. I just can't seem to find what I'm looking for, but I keep trying, keep pushing forward. I got my own place, and I make sure to prioritize my friends and family. That connection means everything to me. But then life threw a curveball. My last job laid me off because the company imploded. The owner put his son, who had zero experience, in the CEO chair, pushing out his other son who'd actually worked there for years. Everything went sideways after that, and I was just collateral damage when the whole thing collapsed. I almost burned through all my savings, honestly considering moving back in with my parents. Rent and bills don't stop just because a company decides to play favorites, Then a lifeline. I landed a job at a warehouse. The pay was decent, and the work was physical, which I could handle. That wasn't the problem. The problem was the floor manager. He was a textbook power tripper, and it was soul-crushing. I kept my head down, just tried to do my work, but it felt like he had a target on my back. Whenever he saw me, it was like he went out of his way to make my life miserable. I'd hit my quotas, prove I was doing my job, but he'd still constantly berate me over the tiniest things. And here's the kicker. He'd stop me, make me stand there and listen to his endless lectures, and my numbers would drop. Then he'd point at those very numbers like they were proof of my incompetence, when the only reason they dropped was because he kept me from working. I tried my best to follow his instructions, adjust his demands, but he'd just turn around and target me again. It was this endless, exhausting loop that just wears you down, deep into your bones. Of course, it wasn't just me. He pushed around other people too. And then there were the ones who sucked up to him, who got by because they'd nod, parrot his lines, and laugh at his terrible jokes.
I'm just not built for that.
I was raised to do the work, tell the truth, not kiss up just to be left alone. So there I was, caught between doing the job right and dealing with him turning everything into a humiliating performance. I'd been there for at least 6 months, and the exhaustion was seeping into my very bones. But I needed the money. I couldn't just walk out. By the way, if you're still with me on this roller coaster of frustration and quiet rebellion, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Trust me, there's more to this story than you can imagine. I was actively looking for a new job, but I had to be careful. I'd seen what happens if you're not. One employee actually got an interview elsewhere, and when the manager found out, he made that guy's life a living hell. Forced him to work overtime using the contract as an excuse until he couldn't even make the interview. The guy ended up quitting, losing both the job and the opportunity. And I honestly suspect the manager went further because his friend told me the previous company gave him a bad referral. That sounded exactly like something this manager would do. So yeah, I wasn't broadcasting anything. I was moving quiet. For now, I kept my head down, did my job, and documented everything. Dates, what was said, who was there, my numbers before and after he stopped me. I wasn't trying to start anything dramatic. I just didn't want to get blindsided by someone who loves control too much and thinks yelling is leadership. I wasn't asking for a miracle, just trying to hold on to who I was and get out without losing more than I already had. Today honestly just felt like more of the same, but somehow worse. I'd been picking up extra shifts, grabbing all the overtime I could. Not because I wanted to be there longer, but because I needed to save enough to actually leave. The thought of getting stuck here, like some of the guys who'd been there for years with nothing saved, that scared me more than anything. So, I pushed myself, dragged myself out of bed earlier, slept less, ate like crap, all for that escape cushion. And even with all that, the manager kept ramping up the workload for everyone. Quotas kept going up. Not gradually, not with reason, just higher numbers this week. No explanation, no extra staff, no adjustments. Just do more. And whenever there was a big order, something that took real time and physical effort, he'd automatically throw it to the people he didn't like. Which, of course, included me every single time. I didn't even pretend to be surprised anymore. Meanwhile, his little group of favorites would be over there, handling the light orders, chatting, laughing, barely breaking a sweat. They knew it too. You could see it in their eyes. They didn't even hide it. And he definitely didn't hide that he was choosing them, because they kissed his ass. It was like high school but with forklifts and chronic back pain. So today, I was already tired as hell, just trying to get through my shift. I was actually ahead of my numbers for once because I'd started early and hadn't taken any pauses. I was just trying to stay invisible. And of course, that's exactly when he decided to show up and make an example out of me. He walked right up to me in front of the entire floor and started going off about how I was stacking inefficiently. Which was hilarious, because that's literally how we were trained to stack, the exact same way. He did it loud, too. Loud enough for everyone to hear. Like he wanted to perform being in charge. I just stood there. Because if I said anything, even something reasonable, he'd twist it into attitude, and then I'd be getting written up or dragged into the office. So I just let him talk. Let him do his whole speech. And while he's talking, I'm watching my numbers drop in real time, because I'm not moving.
He knows that.
He does it on purpose. It's part of the control thing. Knock your numbers down, then use your numbers as proof you're not working hard enough. Same cycle every time. The part that really got me wasn't even him, this time. It was afterwards. A new guy, someone who'd only been here maybe a week or two, came up to me after the floor quieted down and he goes, "Does he always talk to you like that?" He didn't say it in a dramatic way, wasn't looking for gossip. He looked uncomfortable and, honestly, kind of disappointed. Like he realized in real time that this place was not what he thought it was going to be. And hearing that from someone new just confirmed it. It wasn't in my head. It was obvious. People could see it right away. It wasn't subtle. It was just shitty and loud and constant. So yeah, I kept documenting everything. Every shift, every time he stopped me, what time it was, how long I had to stand there, what my numbers were before and after, who was around, who he assigned the heavy orders to, who got the easy ones. Because I wasn't letting what happened to that other guy happen to me. I wasn't getting blindsided like that. I wasn't letting him destroy my chances of leaving the way he did to him. I stayed quiet about it. I didn't talk. I just wrote it down. I didn't know how much longer I could take this, but I wasn't stupid. I wasn't burning the escape route while I was still inside. I was saving. I was planning. And once I had enough, I was gone, and I wouldn't look back. It's been getting harder to pretend this isn't wearing me down. I've been talking to my sister about it whenever we meet up, usually after work when I'm already half dead on my feet. She can tell I'm exhausted just by looking at me. I don't even need to say anything anymore. She'll ask how work is going, and I'll just shake my head, and she already knows. She tries to help, she really does. She suggested looking into employee rights, documenting everything, which I'm already doing, talking to HR, or even leaving and taking something temporary. I thanked her because she means well, and she's trying. But she's working retail and trying to finish her studies at the same time. She has her own life to keep together, and I didn't want to dump everything on her. She's stressed enough. I appreciate her more than she knows. I'd thought about asking my uncle too, just for advice. Because if there's anyone who would know what to do in this type of situation, it would be him. But I kept hesitating. I didn't want to bother him. He already has so much on his plate with his work. I didn't want to be another problem for him to solve. I kept thinking I should just be able to handle this myself. Like, it's just work, just a manager, just a warehouse. But it's amazing how something that seems that simple can wear a person down like this. Today, upper management came in to observe operations. They walked the floor with clipboards and fake smiles. And suddenly, my manager was acting like a completely different person. He was encouraging people, asking if they needed help, even praising people for hitting numbers. Praising them. I had never heard him say a positive sentence in 6 straight months. I just kept working and pretending I didn't see any of it. It was like watching someone cosplay, being a decent human being. But what really got me was when they left. The second the door closed and upper management was out of sight, he snapped right back into it. The voice, the tone, the pissed-off walking pace. Like holding in that fake attitude for an hour had burned a hole through his patience. And the first person he went after wasn't even me. It was the new guy. The same one who asked me if he always talks to me like that. He started picking apart every tiny thing the new guy was doing. Same pattern, same words, same tone he uses on me. You could see the panic hit the new guy in real time. And then I knew for sure this isn't personal. This is just what he does to anyone who doesn't bend fast enough. It was like watching my own first month happen all over again, just to someone else. And the worst part is I couldn't say anything, because I already know how that would play out. Manager would say I'm interfering or undermining authority or whatever excuse he feels like using that day, and I can't afford to get fired. I need to save enough to get out first. I need the exit plan. So, I just watched and I wrote it down like always. I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this, but I'm trying. I'm still here for now. Today, something happened that honestly just left me feeling stuck in the middle of everything. HR pulled me aside. I thought maybe they actually noticed what's been happening, or maybe they were checking in because my performance logs didn't match the manager's attitude comments or whatever. But when I walked into the office, the manager was already sitting there, just leaning back in his chair like he owned the room. The HR rep tried to act like everything was normal and casual, like, we just wanted to see how you're feeling about work lately. But the way she kept glancing at him made it obvious the whole thing was pointless. There was no real conversation happening there.
I said I was fine.
I said work was work. I kept my voice flat. I didn't say anything else. I'm not stupid. You don't hand the man ammunition while he's watching you load the gun. Afterwards, I went back to the floor and just did my shift like usual. I tried not to think about it, but it rattled me more than I thought it would. It made me feel like there's no real way to speak up without it being twisted, like the walls are already closing in before I even say anything. Later that night, my uncle called. Not for anything specific, just checking in. He does that sometimes, just a quick "how are things" kind of call. And I don't know why, but hearing his voice almost broke me a little. I almost told him everything. The manager, the overtime, the way I can't breathe at work sometimes because I'm thinking too much about what will set him off.
I almost said it.
I opened my mouth to say it, but I held back. I didn't want to bother him. I didn't want to sound like I couldn't handle my own life. I didn't want to be the one that always needs help. So, I just said, I've been tired and work has been busy, and I'm trying to save up. He paused for a second, like he heard everything I wasn't saying. And then he mentioned something, just casually. He said he might have come across a job opportunity one could be interested in. Nothing guaranteed, nothing promised, just something that might be opening up soon. He said if I was thinking of switching jobs, I should let him know, and he'd keep me in mind when it comes up. And I told him, yeah, maybe. Like it wasn't the lifeline it actually felt like. After we hung up, I just sat there in my apartment, lights off, shoes still on, just sitting. Because it was the first time in a long time that I realized I might actually have a way out. But I'm still scared of messing it up. I'm still scared of leaving too soon before I'm ready. And I'm still scared of staying long enough that it breaks me before I get to leave. So I keep going and I keep documenting. The new guy is gone.
Just like that.
No text in the group chat. No heads up to anyone, no grabbing his stuff from his locker. He just didn't show up. And when his name came up on the roster with no call, no show, no one even asked why. Nobody needed an explanation. We all just looked at each other and there was this quiet moment of understanding, like, yeah, that's what happens here. He didn't even last a month. The pattern is the same every time. The manager targets you, drains you, isolates you, and waits for you to break. And if you don't break fast enough, he pushes harder. It's like he gets something out of it. And I'll be honest, watching that guy leave without looking back hit me harder than I thought. Because part of me wanted to do exactly the same thing. Just walk. Just disappear. Just not come back. But I kept telling myself, I have to be smart. I kept saying I need to save up just a little more first. I can't afford to quit without a safety net. I can't go back to where I was right after the layoff, scared, broke, unsure of what to do. I can't let myself fall backward again. So, I stay and push and try not to fall apart in the process. My sister asked me recently how much longer I think I can keep working there. And it wasn't even a dramatic moment. We were just sitting at her place while she was folding laundry and I was scrolling on my phone. She looked at me and just said it softly. How much longer can you do this? And the thing is, I didn't have an answer. Not a real one. I just shrugged and said, until I have enough, I guess. She didn't like that answer. Not because she disagreed, but because she could see what it meant. I'm just hanging on day by day.
She didn't push it though.
She knows I'm trying. She knows I'm tired. She knows I'm trying not to drown. We went to our parents' place for dinner a few nights after that.
Just a simple dinner.
No holiday, no birthday, no reason, but it felt like something I really needed. When we walked in, my parents were just happy to have us both there. My dad gave me that look he always gives when he's checking if I'm okay. The kind of look that sees more than I want him to. He didn't say anything at first, just hugged me a little tighter than usual. Then, while we were sitting at the table, he looked at me again and said, "You've lost weight." Not in a judgmental way, just noticing. In that way that means, I see you slipping. My mom reacted the exact opposite. She started piling food on my plate. Didn't matter if I said I was full. She wasn't having it. She kept saying things like, "You work too hard.
Eat more.
You don't look like yourself. Here, take a little more." And I didn't fight it. I didn't brush it off. I just ate. It had been a long time since I felt like someone was taking care of me, even for something small like dinner. We sat around after eating, talking about dumb stuff, old stories, random gossip, the cat knocking over something in the kitchen earlier that day. My mom was laughing. My sister was teasing my dad about how he refuses to get new glasses even though he clearly needs them. And for a little while I didn't feel tired. I didn't feel like something was weighing on my chest. I just felt normal, like myself, not the version of me that works under someone who tries to break me every day. When I was getting ready to leave, my mom loaded me up with containers of food, enough to completely fill my freezer. She always does that when she's worried. She pretends it's just extra from dinner. But there is always enough for like 2 weeks. And I could tell she wanted to say something more. Something about me looking tired or the job or the way I smiled a little less, but she didn't. She just hugged me longer. I drove home with a car full of the kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty. I don't get that kind of quiet very often anymore. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something that wasn't exhaustion or frustration. I actually felt happy just for a night. Just enough to keep going a little longer. Just enough to hold on to. And tomorrow I'll get up and go back to work. And I'll keep saving. And I'll keep documenting. And I'll keep trying to make it out, because now I have something to remember. I still have a life outside that warehouse, and I want to get back to it. I made a mistake today. Not a big one. Not something dangerous, just a small slip because I was tired. Really tired. The kind of tired where your hands don't move as fast as your brain wants them to. I stacked one of the pallets unevenly, and it shifted when I moved it. I corrected it before anything actually happened. It was nothing. The kind of thing anyone would fix in 5 seconds and move on from. But of course, he saw it. Of course, he made it a show. He didn't just correct me. He didn't just mention it. He stopped the entire floor, raised his voice, pointed at it like I had done something unforgivable. Went on and on about carelessness and lack of focus. And if you can't handle the basics, maybe this isn't the job for you. Loud, performative, words meant to embarrass, not teach. And I just stood there and took it because what am I supposed to do? Talk back? Then it becomes attitude, and I'm on the chopping block. And I can't get fired right now. I need to leave on my terms. I need the exit, not another collapse I have to crawl out of. So I stared at the ground and said, okay, and fixed the pallet. And I could feel everyone watching, not because they were judging me, but because they knew exactly what was happening. And the part that's hitting me harder lately is that I haven't had any luck with applications to other places. I've been sending resumes out every night. I don't even care if the job pays slightly less. I just need out. But every place I applied to either hasn't responded or suddenly changed tone after an initial email. And today I found out why. The manager has friends at one of the companies I applied to. They go drinking together. He knew I was looking. He cut it off before it even started. And now I'm stuck again. And it feels like the walls are getting smaller. To make it even worse, I've been noticing lately how close he is with the HR manager. Not in a dramatic way, just close. Inside jokes, shared looks, same pacing, same tone when they talk about productivity. And that means HR isn't safe. It means there's no neutral ground. It means anything I say will go straight to him. So, I've been even more careful. I speak less. I keep my head even lower. I feel myself getting quieter in ways I don't like. But I'm losing my temper. I can feel it. It's like anger is sitting right under my skin, just waiting for something small to push through. I don't want to explode. I don't want to ruin everything I've been holding together. But I don't know how long I can keep swallowing this. My uncle called tonight just to ask how I was doing. And I said I was fine. I lied. And I think he knew I was lying. There was a pause before he said anything, like he was giving me a chance to correct it. I didn't. Then he asked if I wanted to meet this Saturday just to catch up. No pressure, no agenda, just him and me. And I said I'd go. I don't know why, but I keep replaying that moment. Like, maybe Saturday is going to matter more than I think. Today something happened that honestly shook the whole floor, and not in a good way. One of the guys, someone who'd been here longer than me, someone who usually stays quiet and just keeps his head down, finally snapped. Not yelling, not swearing, nothing dramatic. He just stood his ground when the manager started tearing into him over something small. He said, calm as anything, "You're not going to talk to me like that today." The whole warehouse went silent because nobody does that. Not here. The manager smiled. That fake, tight, "I'm about to break you" smile. And he went in on him loud, public, the same humiliation routine he puts everyone through, but worse. Because now it was about proving dominance. He didn't stop until the guy walked off the floor. Just walked. Didn't look back. He didn't come back after break. He didn't come back the next day. His badge was deactivated by morning. No one knows what HR said to him behind closed doors. No one asked. No one had to. We all understood the message. If you speak up, you disappear. So, I kept my head down harder than ever. Saturday came, and I met my uncle like we planned. We grabbed lunch at a small place we used to go to when he'd visit when I was younger. Normally we talk easy, but he took one look at me and just paused. He noticed. He always notices. He asked if everything was okay at work, and I wanted to lie again like I always do, but I couldn't this time. It finally slipped out. Everything. The manager, the harassment, the overtime, the targeting, the guy who disappeared, the applications being blocked, the exhaustion, the fear. He didn't interrupt. He didn't try to fill the silence. He just listened. When I finished, he didn't act surprised. He didn't treat me like I was weak. He just nodded and said, "Good. You documented everything.
Keep doing that."
That's exactly what you were supposed to do." And hearing that I did at least one thing right, I swear something in my chest loosened for the first time in months. He told me he could pull some strings so the manager couldn't sabotage any more applications. Not to fix the situation, just to make sure it's fair. I felt relief just hearing that, like someone had finally cut a hole in the wall I'd been stuck behind. Then, he mentioned the same job opportunity again, the logistics company. I told him I was hesitant because the manager clearly has connections. And my uncle just gave a small smile and said, "I know the owner." Not bragging, not flexing, just stating it. And I told him I didn't want him to handle it for me, that I wanted to earn it on my own terms. And instead of arguing, he said, "Good. They hire on merit anyway. You'll be fine. And he sounded sure, not hopeful.
Sure.
And that meant something. The conversation drifted after that. I brought up the stories he used to tell about the guy with the sharp eyes and the hoodie who helped people quietly. My uncle smiled again. A softer smile this time, and he just said he's doing well. The way he said it told me he actually knows him, not just heard about him. I didn't push. Then I asked about the other story, the one about the man who stopped the killer. My uncle's expression changed. He didn't avoid it, just softened, saddened almost, and he said, "No, we never found the killer." I asked what happened to the hero, and he said that he passed away a while back. Illness. He didn't say details. I didn't ask more. It felt like I was touching something I wasn't supposed to touch. So I apologized for asking, and he just said it was fine. Then he added very quietly, it was an honor to call him a friend. And that's when I realized something. Those stories weren't just stories. They were real people my uncle actually knew. People he respected. People who lived hard lives and still chose to help. And for the first time in a long time, I felt grounded, like there are still good people in the world. Like maybe I could get out of this and still be myself. I drove home feeling different.
Tired, yeah.
But not alone. Not hopeless. I actually have a path now. And I want to keep talking to him. Maybe next Saturday. Yeah, next Saturday. Sounds good. I finally did it. I actually got an interview. My uncle was right. The logistics company had openings. And when I called, they offered something I honestly didn't expect. An interview after business hours, so I didn't have to miss work. I don't know if that was just their policy or if my uncle quietly nudged something, but I wasn't going to question it. I needed the chance. I went right after my shift. I was tired. The kind of tired where your face feels heavy and your legs drag, but I wasn't going to mess this up. I got there and checked in a reception. The receptionist looked like she didn't miss anything. Sharp eyes, crisp posture, neat desk, the kind of person who can read who you are before you say a word. She was polite, though, just professional. She pointed me to a waiting area outside a boardroom and told me someone would be with me soon. There were a couple of other people waiting, too. All of us trying not to look nervous. It took maybe 30 minutes before they called my name. I walked in, tried not to let my heartbeat show in my face. Inside was a woman named Kim. Calm, organized, very direct, but not cold. And next to her was an older guy, stocky build, deep voice, a presence like he owned the room without trying. Turns out he did. His name was Ivar, the actual owner. The owner. That threw me for a second. I was sitting across from the person who literally decides the direction of the whole company. I did my best. I answered everything honestly. I didn't try to act perfect, just real. I told them about my experience, the warehouse work, the quotas, the overtime. I didn't talk about the manager. Didn't complain, didn't bring negativity, just talked about what I do and how I do it. And somewhere in there, I stopped feeling nervous. I just talked. When the interview ended, Ivar stood up and walked over to me. Big hand on my shoulder, firm pat on the back. And he said, "I've seen that look in a man's eyes before, a hard worker, someone who doesn't quit." And the way he said it, it didn't feel like a line or something practiced. It felt like a real read, like he saw me. He said to expect a call in a few days. Those days felt long. I still had to work at the warehouse, still had to listen to the manager's voice, still had to deal with the same routines. But something changed. I stopped caring the same way. I didn't let it hit me as deep. I did my job. I kept my notes.
But there was something else under it now.
Something like air. Then tonight I got the call. I got the job. I actually got it. I don't remember the exact words, just that they said, "We'd like to offer you the position." And I said yes fast. Probably too fast, but I don't care. I don't care at all. I said yes. I have a new job. I called my parents. My dad sounded proud, in that way he only gets when he's trying not to show too much emotion. He said we should celebrate at home. My mom was already talking about what she'd cooked before I even hung up. My sister screamed into the phone. My uncle, he didn't sound surprised.
Just happy.
He said he'd come, too. And that meant a lot. For the first time in a long time, I'm actually looking forward to something. Tomorrow, I'm handing in my badge. Last shift. Then I'm done. For real. I'm getting out. The longest day any of them would live through. Anton was at his desk when the call came. His niece, Eli, sobbing so hard the words fractured into pieces before they formed. For a long, dizzy minute, he couldn't make sense of the sound. Then, when the sentence finally anchored, it was a single, brutal fact. Eli was dead. A big rig had struck his car from the rear on the highway, the impact throwing other vehicles into chaos. Eli had died on impact. The phone slipped from Anton's fingers and hit the floor. He sat very still, as if remaining upright could keep the world from spinning, then grabbed his keys and went. At the scene, the heap of twisted metal made sense of nothing. Anton recognized the car by a bent license plate, then by the shape of the wheel, then by the thing no one should have to recognize, the small, still hand at the wheel. For a moment, he could not breathe. The police held him back because he would have stepped into the wreckage if they had not. He wept then, loudly and without shame, until the officers guided him away and wrapped him in a coat that would not warm him. He went to his sister and parents. Their faces when he walked into the room reminded him of every quiet way grief takes shape. The denial that refuses to be argued with. The small gestures of caretaking that suddenly felt like accusation. The messy, uncontainable sound of a house that could no longer pretend nothing had changed. They had been told officially, but seeing Anton there made the truth irrevocable. Family arrived in a slow tide. Cousins, neighbors, faces that had once gathered for dinners and small victories now drawn into a single, raw ceremony of disbelief. Anton called Detective Will and pleaded for information. Will couldn't give him details. An investigation was an investigation, but he listened. And in the gaps of procedure, Anton found a burning, practical anger that would not be soothed by protocol. When the report was finally read, it was a blunt, terrible list of facts. The trucker was 21, new to the country, in the job barely a year, struggling with English. A young man behind the wheel of a machine that didn't bend for tiredness or for the plans of other people. The knowledge landed on Anton like cold, hard fact. It was not consolation, far from it, but it materialized into something he could work with. Culpability, and the promise that culpability could be traced. A fortnight later, they gathered to release what remained. The funeral was small and precise, and very loud with absence. Eli's remains were cremated. Friends and family filled the room with the ordinary human things that felt like ritual. Stories about his stubborn habits, jokes he had made, the way he had tried to hide how tired he was. People from the warehouse came too, faces raw from loss and from the guilt that comes when a system that should protect its people does not. Ivar and Kim stood among them, holding a small basket of items, the things they had prepared for his first day at the new job, now offered with hands that trembled. Everything that had been planned for a future arrived at a funeral. A jacket folded, a notebook unopened, a set of keys that would never be turned. Anton left that day with a list in his head he would not leave to the mercy of time. He read the notes Eli had kept, the dates, the incidents, the names. He collected statements from coworkers. He kept the record of the manager's humiliations. The grief did not become strategy overnight. Grief never does. But grief sharpened into resolve. Where others broke, Anton moved with a lawyer's patience and a relative's fury. He would not let this rest as an accident that consumed a single life. He would make sure those who had treated Eli as expendable were seen, were asked, and were held accountable. The potential business deal with Raveneck, the quiet nods and coarse jokes of men who valued profit over people, Anton decided those would be part of the reckoning. He would use what Eli had left behind, notes, witnesses, the plain sequence of harassment, to ensure the company and the manager paid more than the cost of a bad reference. The pages of 3 calendars turned before any of the loose ends were tied. In the space between loss and consequence, the family learned how to live around the hole Eli had left. They learned how to answer the questions that kept arriving, how to say his name without crumbling. Anton kept returning to the notebooks, to the dates, to the recorded slights that became the architecture of a case. He did not imagine this would bring Eli back. He did not imagine it would heal the dead or erase an evening when a highway took a life. What he did imagine, and what he set himself to do, was to make sure that the next person who found themselves under that manager's gaze would not be alone. That the systems which allowed one man to disappear quietly into consequence would be forced to bear the light. In the end, that was all the future any of them could demand. Truth held in a ledger, names spoken into record, and the stubborn insistence that some human worth is beyond profit. This story, Eli's story, is a stark reminder of what happens when we're pushed to our breaking point. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like you had to fight just to keep your dignity? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.